Elias Harper walked down the narrow streets of New Aran, a human-colonized city on the planet Virelia. The streets were busy, with hovercrafts flying overhead and alien merchants calling out their goods. Humans were a small minority on Virelia, but Elias never felt out of place. He had grown up among humans and aliens alike, learning that kindness and honesty mattered more than wealth or status. Elias worked as a schoolteacher in one of the local schools. It was a small building, painted in faded shades of green and blue, but inside it held laughter, learning, and dreams. Elias loved his job. Every day, he stood before the classroom and taught children about science, history, and the wonders of the universe. But more than the subjects, he wanted to teach them about courage, compassion, and hope. One morning, as Elias walked into the classroom, he noticed something that made him pause. Lila, a small girl with big brown eyes, was quietly reading her book. Her shoes were torn, the soles barely holding together. She was careful, stepping lightly, trying to avoid making a sound that might reveal her struggle. Elias had noticed this before, but today, seeing the ragged shoes up close, he felt a pang of concern. After the lesson, he stayed behind and called Lila over. "Your shoes," he said gently. Lila looked down, embarrassed. I will fix them," she whispered. Elias shook his head. "No, Lila, you shouldn't have to walk in pain or discomfort. I will buy you new ones." Lila's eyes widened. "But you can't. You are my teacher. You have little money." Elias smiled. "I have enough to help. It's not much, but it's enough to make your steps lighter." That evening, Elias walked to a small market where alien and human merchants sold their goods. He carefully chose a pair of sturdy shoes that would last Lila a long time. The shoes were simple but well-made, with soft soles and strong stitching. He held them in his hands, imagining how happy Lila would be when she saw them. The next day, he gave her the shoes. Lila could not believe it. She hugged him, tears of joy in her eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Harper," she whispered. Elias patted her on the head. "Remember, kindness is stronger than fear. It changes lives, even in small ways." But the happiness did not last long. The school administration, a strict group of officials who valued rules above all else, had heard about Elias's act. They accused him of misusing funds and acting outside his authority. In reality, Elias had not taken any money from the school. He had used his own savings, but the administrators did not care. They wanted an example, someone to remind other teachers that rules came first. One afternoon, Elias was called into the principal's office. The principal, a stern alien named Vortan, did not smile. "Elias Harper," he said, "your actions have caused disruption. You have overstepped your role as a teacher. You are dismissed, effective immediately." Elias was shocked, but not angry. He had expected resistance, but he had hoped that kindness would be valued more than rigid rules. "I understand," he said calmly. "I only wanted to help a child in need." Vortan shook his head. "Intentions do not matter. Rules matter. Pack your belongings." Elias left the office with a heavy heart, but he refused to feel defeated. He walked through the streets, holding his bag, thinking of Lila and the other children. He had no family on Virelia, and his savings were modest. But he knew he had done the right thing. The city seemed colder that day, the alien faces around him indifferent or curious. Yet, Elias reminded himself that a single act of kindness could ripple far beyond what he could see. For days, Elias wandered the city, unsure of what to do next. The other teachers avoided him, afraid of getting involved. Merchants he had known smiled politely, but kept their distance. Still, there were small signs of gratitude. Parents whispered about him in marketplaces, and children drew pictures of their teacher helping Lila. He realized that even in difficult times, his actions had touched hearts. One morning, As Elias sipped a cup of synthetic tea in a small cafe, a holographic message appeared before him. It was from an interstellar legal office, an entity he had never dealt with before. The message began formally but quickly caught his attention. It said that he had inherited a fortune from a distant uncle he had never met. At first, Elias thought it was a scam. He frowned and reread the message. It was real. His uncle, who had lived on a distant human colony, had left him a vast estate, including technology, alien artifacts, and land across several colonies. Elias could hardly believe it. The same man who had been fired for giving shoes to a poor child now had wealth beyond imagination. But he did not feel greedy or entitled. He thought first of the children, the families, and the communities he could help. The universe was vast, and he saw an opportunity to bring hope to places where kindness was scarce. Before claiming the inheritance, Elias had to travel to the colony where his uncle had lived. The journey was long, with multiple spaceports and interstellar ships. Along the way, he encountered aliens of all shapes and sizes. Many were curious about a human inheriting such wealth. Some were skeptical, even hostile, assuming he must have tricked or cheated someone. Elias met their questions with honesty, explaining that he had no prior knowledge of his uncle's will. His humility and truthfulness gradually won their respect. As the days passed, Elias learned about alien societies and their challenges. Some colonies struggled with poverty, corruption, or lack of education. Others were advanced technologically, but lacked compassion or empathy in their leadership. Elias realized that his inheritance could be a tool not just for personal comfort, but to improve lives across the galaxy. The very things that had caused him to be dismissed on Virelia, his belief in kindness and fairness, could now guide entire communities. When he finally arrived at his uncle's estate, Elias was awed by the scope of the inheritance. There were libraries with knowledge from across the stars, laboratories filled with experimental devices, and communication networks connecting dozens of colonies. Most importantly, there were instructions from his uncle, encouraging him to use the fortune to help those in need and to foster understanding between humans and alien civilizations. Elias smiled. This was exactly what he had hoped for. Elias took his first steps as a guardian of this fortune with care. He began planning schools, learning centers, and programs that would benefit children like Lila. He imagined libraries where children of all species could learn together, where humans and aliens could share knowledge, curiosity, and creativity. He knew there would be challenges. There would be jealousy, bureaucratic hurdles, and cultural misunderstandings. But Elias believed in the strength of human values, courage, integrity, and compassion. That night, Elias looked up at the twin moons of Virelia from the balcony of his small lodging. The city below seemed alive, full of possibility. He thought about Lila, about the children who would benefit from his efforts, and about the humans and aliens who might see kindness as a true form of power. The galaxy was vast and complicated, but Elias felt ready. He had been fired for doing the right thing, yet now he held the tools to do even more good. Elias Harper understood one simple truth. Wealth, power, or recognition meant nothing if it was not used to help others. He had been tested by a rigid school system and the prejudices of a mixed-species society, and he had emerged wiser, stronger, and more determined. The galaxy might be skeptical of humans, but he would prove that compassion, honesty, and courage were not just human traits, they were forces that could change worlds. As he drifted off to sleep, he imagined the day when Lila would walk into a school with shoes that fit perfectly, a backpack filled with books, and a mind ready to explore the universe. He imagined dozens, hundreds, thousands of children across the galaxy experiencing the same opportunities, and he knew that it had all started with a simple act: giving a pair of shoes to a child who needed them most. Elias Harper could hardly believe the news that had arrived in the holo message a few weeks ago. A distant uncle he had never known had left him a fortune vast, unimaginable, and spread across human and alien colonies. At first, he had felt disbelief, then skepticism. But the legal office confirmed the inheritance. Now, With documents in hand and a small suitcase of belongings, he prepared to journey to the colony where his uncle's estate was located. The colony was called Miradon, a vibrant settlement orbiting a bright blue gas giant. Ships of all kinds landed there, from sleek human designs to alien crafts that seemed almost alive. Elias felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. He was used to teaching children in a small school, not navigating interstellar bureaucracy and vast alien estates. When he arrived, he was met by a representative of the legal office, a tall alien named Kalar. Kalar had green, textured skin, 4 eyes, and a calm but serious demeanor. "Mr. Harper," he said in perfect Galactic common, "welcome to Miradon. Your uncle's estate awaits you. But the process will not be simple. You must verify identity, accept terms, and navigate local authorities. It is not just paperwork. There are interests across the colonies that may challenge your claim." Elias nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "I understand. I just want to honor my uncle's wishes and use this inheritance wisely." The first few days were exhausting. Every office, from legal to financial, required identification, verification, and endless signatures. Some alien officials were skeptical of a human inheriting such wealth. "How can a human manage this?" one questioned, raising a clawed hand. "Humans are small, weak, and inexperienced in interstellar affairs." Elias smiled politely. "I may be human, but I am willing to learn, listen, and act responsibly. My uncle trusted me, and I intend to honor that trust." Some officials chuckled, others frowned, but slowly, Elias's patience and honesty began to earn respect. Kalar, who guided him through the process, quietly commented, "Humans are strange. They face challenges calmly, without arrogance or deceit. It is admirable." As he explored his inheritance, Elias discovered the full scope of what he now possessed. There were advanced laboratories filled with experimental devices, libraries containing knowledge from countless worlds, and communication networks linking dozens of colonies. Most surprising to him were the alien artifacts, each with unique abilities, some dangerous, some beautiful, and all holding secrets of civilizations he had only read about in books. One evening, as he walked through the main hall of the estate, Elias reflected on how far he had come. Weeks ago, he had been fired for giving shoes to a poor student. Now he stood in an estate that could influence entire colonies. It was strange, overwhelming, but he did not let it intoxicate him. He thought first of Leela, the children on Virelia, and the countless lives that could benefit from this fortune. The next challenge came unexpectedly. Local media and powerful figures had learned about the human who had suddenly inherited a massive estate. Some were curious, others skeptical, and a few openly hostile. A wealthy alien merchant named Varrock publicly questioned Elias's ability to manage the fortune. "Why should a human, with no experience in governance or business, control so much?" Varrock demanded during a televised forum. "Surely there are more capable beings among us." Elias remained calm. He addressed the forum with humility and honesty. "I do not claim to know everything. I am human, yes, but humans have qualities that are not always obvious in numbers or titles. We are resilient, compassionate, and willing to learn. My uncle entrusted this fortune to me because he believed in these qualities. I intend to use it not for personal gain, but to help communities, children, and the galaxy at large." The audience was surprised by his words. Many aliens had expected arrogance, greed, or ignorance. Instead, Elias spoke with clarity, sincerity, and a quiet confidence. Slowly, opinions began to shift. Some began to see that human values could be powerful, even in the vast and complicated galaxy. As he settled into his role, Elias began making plans. He wanted to use the inheritance to help children, the poor, and those struggling with limited opportunities. His first step was to create learning centers on several colonies. These centers would be free, accessible to humans and aliens alike, and equipped with technology and books that could rival the finest universities. The planning process was challenging. Each colony had its own culture, rules, and expectations. Some parents were skeptical of a human leading such programs. Others worried that aliens and humans together might not get along. Elias faced every obstacle with patience and listening. He held meetings, invited community leaders, and carefully designed programs that respected local customs while introducing new ideas. One day, while visiting a colony near the edge of a star system, Elias encountered a group of children struggling with basic tools and educational materials. Some had never seen a computer. Others lacked proper books. He knelt among them, helping them understand a simple science experiment. The children's eyes lit up with curiosity, and he realized that even small interventions could spark incredible change. Meanwhile, back on Virelia, news of Elias's efforts began to reach Lila and other families. They were amazed that the teacher who had been dismissed for helping one student was now creating opportunities for thousands. Lila wrote him a letter, describing how she had excelled in school and encouraged her friends to never lose hope. Elias treasured the letter, reading it often as a reminder that small acts could grow into something extraordinary. As Elias continued his work, he encountered challenges beyond administration. There were individuals who sought to manipulate him, claiming that humans were naive or weak. There were moments of doubt, when even Elias wondered if his ideals were enough. Yet, each time he faced adversity, he reminded himself of the principle that had guided him all along. Compassion and integrity were more powerful than fear or greed. One evening, while reviewing plans for a new learning center, Kalar approached him. "You have done something remarkable, Elias," the alien said. "Not many humans could manage such responsibility, nor inspire so many beings of different species. The galaxy is watching. You are setting an example that humans are capable of more than we imagined." Elias smiled softly. "I do not want praise. I only want to show that helping others matters. That kindness is not weakness, but a strength that can change worlds." Over the next months, the network of schools and resource centers expanded rapidly. Alien parents who had once doubted Elias began to trust him. Scholars and teachers from various planets volunteered to help. Children from different species learned together, sharing knowledge, culture, and stories. Elias witnessed small miracles every day. A shy child gaining confidence. A struggling student discovering a talent. A community learning to cooperate despite differences. In one memorable moment, he visited a colony where children had never seen a library. The excitement was tangible as he opened doors to shelves filled with books. Children ran from aisle to aisle, touching pages, reading aloud, and asking questions. Elias watched quietly, feeling a sense of fulfillment that no fortune could ever match. Elias also learned from the aliens. Some were experts in technology, science, and interstellar trade. Others were artists, musicians, or philosophers. By listening and respecting their knowledge, he combined human ingenuity with alien expertise. Together, they created new methods of learning and innovation that inspired entire regions. Even as his influence grew, Elias never forgot Leela. He often sent her letters and small gifts, encouraging her education and dreams. Lila wrote back, describing her life and her desire to help others. Inspired by Elias's example, he realized that what had started with a single pair of shoes had sparked a chain of hope and opportunity far beyond what he could have imagined. One night, Elias sat on the balcony of the estate, looking out at the stars. The planets, moons, and distant colonies seemed alive with potential. He reflected on how a human, dismissed for kindness, could now influence an entire galaxy. It was not wealth, power, or technology that had made the difference. He thought it was courage, compassion, and the willingness to act for others. Elias understood that his journey had just begun. The inheritance was not simply a gift. It was a responsibility. The galaxy had challenges, inequalities, and prejudices, and he would face them all. But he believed in human values and their ability to inspire change. He believed that kindness could be revolutionary, and that integrity could bridge species, cultures, and worlds. As the twin moons of Miradon reflected on the estate, Elias made a silent promise. He would dedicate his life to education, opportunity, and compassion. He would show the galaxy that humans, though small and often underestimated, could achieve greatness through values, courage, and an unyielding belief in the power of doing good. And so, Elias Harper prepared for the next phase of his journey, ready to transform his inheritance into something more than wealth, ready to turn it into a force for hope, knowledge, and unity across the stars. Elias Harper had settled into his new life on Miradan, but he knew that merely inheriting a fortune was not enough. He wanted to make a real difference. The galaxy was full of children who lacked opportunities, families struggling to survive, and communities that were ignored because they were small or far away. Elias believed that knowledge, education, and care could change that, and he was determined to start immediately. His first plan was to establish learning centers across several colonies, including Virelia, where he had taught. These centers would be free for children, welcoming humans and aliens alike. They would teach basic subjects like reading, math, and science, but also encourage creativity, curiosity, and cooperation. Elias knew that some colonies might resist a human-led initiative, but he was ready to show that humans could lead with integrity and respect. The planning was complex. Each colony had different rules, customs, and expectations. Some alien species had never interacted with humans in a leadership role. Some parents worried that their children might not learn properly if taught by someone unfamiliar. Elias faced countless meetings with local councils, parents, and community leaders. He spoke honestly, explaining his vision and listening carefully to their concerns. One colony, a desert planet called Thrill, had particularly strong resistance. The council there doubted a human could manage resources and schools effectively. "Humans are fragile," one council member said bluntly. "They are not built for leadership in harsh conditions." Elias smiled, replying, "Humans may be small, but we are adaptable. We care about others, and that care gives us strength. My goal is not to dominate but to help every child thrive." Slowly, his sincerity won them over. The council members began to see that Elias's determination was not for power or recognition, but to help those in need. By the time construction began, a small group of volunteers had joined him, a mix of humans and aliens excited by the possibility of changing lives. The first learning center opened on Virelia. Children arrived cautiously, unsure what to expect. Many had never had access to proper materials or books. Elias greeted each one personally, smiling and speaking gently. "This place is for you," he said. "You can explore, learn, and dream. Nothing is impossible if you try." As the weeks passed, the learning center became lively with activity. Children shared stories from their cultures, worked on experiments together, and helped each other understand difficult lessons. Elias observed with pride, realizing that humans could teach not just knowledge but values, kindness, cooperation, and patience. He encouraged group projects where alien and human children worked side by side, learning that differences could be a source of strength. Word of Elias's success spread quickly. Parents from nearby settlements brought their children to the center, eager to give them an education that was both fair and inspiring. Lila, now a bright and confident girl, often assisted Elias, helping younger children and demonstrating the human values he had taught her. However, not everyone was pleased. Some wealthy alien merchants and officials, who saw the learning centers as a threat to their influence, began plotting ways to undermine Elias. They spread rumors that humans could not manage large projects, or that Elias was misusing his inheritance. He faced jealousy, suspicion, and resistance at every step. Despite these challenges, Elias remained calm. He focused on action, transparency, and results. He documented finances, held public meetings, and invited independent inspectors to verify the integrity of the programs. Slowly, public opinion began to shift in his favor. The children's success and the community's improvements spoke louder than rumors or prejudice. Elias also integrated technology into his centers. With some of the advanced equipment from his inheritance, he introduced interactive learning tools, holographic simulations, and virtual libraries. Children who had never left their villages could now explore distant planets, understand alien cultures, and participate in experiments previously impossible. During one particularly memorable project, Elias organized a collaborative science challenge across 3 colonies. Children, both human and alien, worked together to design a water filtration system for a drought-stricken settlement. Ideas flowed, mistakes were made, lessons were learned, and eventually, a working prototype emerged. The project was celebrated widely, demonstrating that cooperation, creativity, and human ingenuity could solve real problems. As the network of learning centers grew, Elias traveled constantly. He visited each colony personally, meeting families, listening to children's dreams, and helping teachers solve problems. He encouraged local leadership while providing guidance, believing that empowering communities was more effective than imposing control. His reputation as a fair, kind, and capable human leader spread across the galaxy. Even as he gained respect, Elias never forgot humility. He continued to live simply, wearing the same plain clothing he had worn before the inheritance, eating modest meals, and sleeping in modest quarters while traveling. His focus was always on the children and the communities he served. Many alien leaders noted that his simplicity and honesty made him stand out from others who sought wealth or status. One day, while inspecting a new center on a forested colony called Eldara, Elias encountered a group of children struggling with a complex experiment. The experiment involved understanding energy flow and how to build small, safe power cells. The children were frustrated, some ready to give up. Elias knelt beside them and explained patiently, showing each step and encouraging them to try again. Slowly, their frustration turned into excitement. When the experiment succeeded, the children cheered, hugging one another and thanking Elias for his guidance. This scene reminded him of why he had started this journey. All the wealth, all the challenges, all the resistance, it was worth it when he saw the spark of curiosity and confidence in a child's eyes. The galaxy could doubt humans, underestimate them, and criticize them, but Elias knew that courage, compassion, and intelligence were universal strengths. He also began mentoring other humans and aliens who wanted to help. Teachers from different colonies came to learn from him, inspired by his methods. Elias encouraged innovation and creativity, showing that humans were capable not only of kindness, but also of leadership, problem-solving, and cross-cultural understanding. One particularly clever alien student, a young girl named Thera, created a device to detect water quality in alien environments. Elias encouraged her to present it at the Interstellar Youth Science Conference. When Thera's invention won first prize, the colony celebrated, and Elias realized that his efforts were multiplying. One child's learning could inspire entire communities. As his influence expanded, Elias faced another type of challenge: balancing resources across colonies. Some centers were in advanced areas with more materials and volunteers, while others were in poor, isolated regions. Elias used strategic planning, negotiating for supplies, and encouraging local contributions. He showed that humans could combine empathy with practical problem-solving, building systems that were fair and effective. Despite his growing fame, Elias remained approachable. Children often ran up to him in the streets, calling out his name. Parents sent letters of thanks. Teachers sought his advice. He smiled, knowing that respect earned through action was far more meaningful than power gained through fear or manipulation. Lila continued to grow under his guidance. She began teaching younger children, using lessons she had learned from Elias to inspire and educate. She often reminded him of the day he had bought her shoes. "It started with one small act," she said, smiling. "And now look at all the children you're helping." Elias nodded, realizing that even the smallest gestures could ripple through time and space, touching countless lives. As the years passed, Elias's learning centers became symbols of hope and progress. Communities once overlooked or neglected now thrived. Humans and aliens worked together, learned together, and grew together. Elias demonstrated that human qualities, compassion, intelligence, courage, and persistence were not weaknesses, but strengths that could shape civilizations. Elias also faced personal challenges. Some alien magnates continued to envy him, spreading rumors or trying to sabotage projects. Others questioned whether a human could truly understand alien cultures. Elias met these challenges with calm determination, showing that honesty, patience, and respect could overcome prejudice. Slowly, even the most skeptical leaders began to trust him. One evening, after a long day traveling between colonies, Elias stood on a balcony overlooking a bustling settlement. Children played in the streets, teachers discussed lesson plans, and families shared meals. He thought about his journey from a teacher fired for giving shoes to a student to a human inspiring hope across the galaxy. The contrast was remarkable, yet it reminded him of one simple truth. Human values could achieve greatness when applied with courage and care. Elias knew that this was only the beginning. His network of learning centers would continue to grow. He planned to introduce advanced technology, collaborative projects, and cultural exchanges, ensuring that every child had the opportunity to learn, grow, and dream. And through it all, he remained true to his principles. He never sought fame, recognition, or power. He sought only to help, to inspire, and to show that humans, though small and often underestimated, could lead with heart, mind, and integrity. In the quiet moments, Elias often thought of Lila and the first pair of shoes that had started everything. It seemed almost magical that one small act of kindness could lead to such profound impact. But he knew it was not magic, it was human courage, human care, and the belief that every life mattered. As he prepared for the next phase of his work, Elias felt confident that the galaxy could change. One child, one lesson, one community at a time. And he knew that humans, underestimated and often doubted, could shine brightly in ways no one had imagined. Elias Harper stood on the balcony of his estate on Miradon, looking out over the galaxy he had spent years helping to shape. From here, he could see colonies on multiple planets, bustling with life and learning, connected by the network of schools and programs he had established. What had started with a simple act, buying a pair of shoes for a struggling child, had grown into something far greater. He had transformed opportunities for thousands of children across human and alien settlements. His thoughts drifted to Lila, now a confident young woman who had blossomed under his guidance. She had become a teacher herself, spreading the values Elias had instilled: curiosity, courage, and compassion. She often shared stories of students she had inspired, reminding Elias that his work had created ripples far beyond what he had imagined. Despite the galaxy recognizing his efforts, Elias never allowed pride to dominate him. He remained humble, living simply, speaking gently, and always prioritizing the needs of the communities he served. Visitors from across the stars came to see him, curious to learn how a human could lead with such integrity and effectiveness. Many were surprised that a small, seemingly ordinary human could have such a profound impact. The challenge now was not just to expand further, but to consolidate what he had built and ensure it would continue long after he was gone. Elias spent long hours reviewing reports from the colonies, checking the progress of learning centers, and mentoring teachers. He encouraged them to innovate, to create projects that addressed local needs, and to work together regardless of species. He believed that education should not only impart knowledge but also teach respect, cooperation, and the value of helping others. One day, a group of alien leaders from a distant cluster of colonies arrived. They were intrigued by the success of Elias's network and wanted to replicate it in their regions. Some were skeptical, unsure whether humans could understand the complexities of alien societies. Elias welcomed them warmly. He listened to their concerns, studied their cultures, and shared his philosophy. Leadership is not about control, he said. It is about service, understanding, and action. The size of your species does not matter. What matters is the strength of your heart and mind. The leaders were impressed. They saw that Elias did not impose rules or ideas blindly. Instead, he encouraged collaboration and creativity. Within months, plans were underway to establish learning centers in dozens more colonies, tailored to the needs of each community. Humans and aliens would work together as equals, sharing knowledge, culture, and skills. Elias also turned his attention to technology. Using resources from his inheritance, he developed advanced learning tools and virtual classrooms. Children who lived on remote planets could now participate in lessons, interact with teachers and peers across the galaxy, and access knowledge that had once been impossible to reach. The virtual programs allowed for collaboration in science experiments, artistic projects, and problem-solving challenges that connected species and cultures. As the network grew, Elias continued to face challenges. Some powerful alien corporations and officials remained skeptical, fearing that a human-led initiative could weaken their control or influence. They attempted to create bureaucratic obstacles, spread misinformation, and discredit his methods. Elias met each challenge with patience and transparency. He explained decisions clearly, shared data openly, and demonstrated the success of his programs through tangible results. Over time, even the most stubborn critics acknowledged his achievements. Elias understood that true change required more than just infrastructure. It required inspiration. He often visited schools in person, observing classes, talking to students, and encouraging teachers. He listened carefully to children's questions and ideas, guiding them without giving direct answers, so that they could develop critical thinking and creativity. Watching their eyes light up when they solved a problem or discovered something new reminded him why he had begun this journey in the first place. One memorable visit was to a colony in a tropical jungle world. The children there had never had access to clean water or reliable power. With Elias's guidance, they developed sustainable systems for water filtration and solar energy, using both local resources and technologies from the estate. The success of these projects inspired other colonies to adopt similar approaches. The children learned that even small actions, guided by knowledge and care, could have lasting impacts on their communities. Elias also nurtured mentorship among students. Older children and teens were encouraged to guide younger ones, fostering responsibility, empathy, and leadership. This mentorship program spread quickly, and soon students from different planets were helping each other, learning that cooperation and mutual respect transcended species boundaries. The most satisfying moments for Elias were often quiet. A child discovering a new concept, a teacher successfully implementing a lesson, or a community coming together to solve a problem. Each of these moments reinforced the idea that human values, kindness, perseverance, honesty, and courage could create lasting change. He had been underestimated countless times, dismissed for being human. Yet he had proven that these qualities were powerful across the galaxy. Over time, Elias's reputation became legendary. Stories of the human who had started with a single act of kindness and expanded it into a galaxy-wide network of learning and innovation spread far and wide. Leaders consulted him for advice, children wrote letters of gratitude, and communities celebrated the programs he had established. Yet Elias remained humble, always redirecting praise to the teachers, students, and volunteers who had made his vision a reality. One evening, while reviewing reports from all colonies, Elias received a holographic message from Lila. She described the successes of her students, the new projects she had implemented, and the ways children were sharing knowledge and helping their communities. Elias smiled, realizing that the spark he had ignited in one small child had grown into a constellation of hope across the galaxy. He thought about the lessons he had learned along the way. Wealth and inheritance were tools, not goals. True leadership required service, humility, and compassion. Education was not just about facts, but about teaching respect, courage, and the belief that anyone could make a difference. Most importantly, he understood that one act of kindness, giving shoes to a child, could grow into a force capable of transforming civilizations. Elias's work also inspired other humans across the galaxy. Many had felt small and powerless among alien civilizations, but his example showed that humans could achieve extraordinary things. They began to take initiative in their own communities, creating programs, volunteering, and leading projects that promoted learning and compassion. Elias watched these efforts with quiet pride, knowing that the human spirit could shine brightly, even in the vastness of space. As the years passed, Elias continued to expand his network, mentor teachers, and inspire children. Yet he never lost sight of the humble beginnings that had started it all. The memory of Lila, standing in her torn shoes, reminded him that greatness often begins with small, thoughtful actions. He knew that no matter how large his influence grew, the core values of empathy, courage, and perseverance were what truly mattered. Eventually, Elias's influence reached interstellar councils. Leaders of multiple species invited him to share his insights on education, social development, and interspecies cooperation. He spoke not from a position of power, but from experience, emphasizing that trust, respect, and compassion were the most effective tools for leadership. His words resonated, inspiring policies that improved conditions for children and communities across the galaxy. Elias Harper had transformed not just education, but the perception of humans among other species. Once underestimated, humans were now seen as capable, compassionate, and innovative. Elias had shown that human qualities, resilience, courage, and integrity were not weaknesses but strengths that could influence entire civilizations. One quiet night, Elias walked through one of the learning centers on Miradan. Listening to the laughter and chatter of children, he saw human and alien students working side by side, sharing knowledge, helping each other, and exploring their creativity. A sense of fulfillment filled him. He had turned his inheritance, once a simple fortune, into a legacy that would endure for generations. Looking at the stars, Elias realized that this was the true meaning of his journey. It was never about wealth or status. It was about making a difference, inspiring others, and showing that humanity, though small in size, could shine brightly in ways that no one had imagined. As he prepared to rest that night, Elias smiled. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and opportunities. But he knew that human courage, kindness, and intelligence could overcome them all. The journey that had begun with a simple act of buying shoes had grown into a story of hope, education, and lasting change. A story that would inspire generations of humans and aliens alike. Elias Harper had proven that humans were not to be underestimated. That one person, guided by values and determination, could touch countless lives and change the course of civilizations. The galaxy had mocked or doubted humans before, but now it watched, learned, and respected. And Elias knew that the true reward was not recognition, but the knowledge that every child, every community, and every life he had touched would continue to grow and thrive long after he was gone. He closed his eyes, listening to the sounds of laughter and learning, feeling a profound peace. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had been worth every moment. Human values had prevailed, and the galaxy was better for it. And as he drifted into sleep, Elias knew that the legacy of kindness, courage, and hope would continue to spread across the stars, touching lives in ways that no one could have predicted, starting from one small, thoughtful act.